Good morning, Stampers. Today I wanted to do a quick tutorial on using Pearl X powders. I had a girlfriend come over and visit me yesterday and brought me these Pearl X powders, which I've never even used before. So, of course, right onto the internet I went to see what the easiest way to use these was. They come in a wide assortment of colors, and it's a real fine. It's not even a glitter. It's a powder, but it's real shiny. It's kind of like using metallics, and it comes in a wide range of colors, as you can see, from silvers to golds to pearl whites, and each of them has multiple colors within the pearl itself. So today I picked out 4 colors to use. And the first one is a sparkle gold, so it's got more of a glitter than a pearl look to it. The next one is called Super Copper. Wow, look at that. And when I saw this, I immediately thought of the stamp set we're going to use today. This one is Super Bronze. It's just a little bit different tint than the copper. And then this one, what is it called here? It's called Duo Rouge Blue. But look at it here. It actually comes out blue. That's what we did with our bubbles here. So this is the card we're going to create today. And I thought it would be really pretty on black. So this was my first attempt at trying this technique. But there's just so many colors in there to look at. So let's get started. We'll set that aside. And all we have we have our card base, which is 4¼ by 11, scored at 5½. I wanted a stand-up card. So we've got our card base, and then our Pacific Point seemed to match the blues in the Pearl X really well here. So that's why I went with Pacific Point. And the Pacific Point piece is 4 by 4¾ The black that we're using, regular black cardstock, is 3¾ by 4½. Let's move those aside. Now, I went on the internet, and there's many ways to use this Pearl X powder. This is just one, and I was trying to find an easy one that I could quickly try it because it was in my space and I needed to try it. The easiest medium I found is just using VersaMark, and it allows it to stick. So I'm going to open these up. Now these are really fine powders, so be careful when you're opening them. And this little bit apparently goes a really long way from everything I was reading on the internet. And you'll see that you use very little. So we're just going to open these up. And I keep the lids beside them because you'll see when we do the technique, we're going to use these lids to kind of tap off what we don't need. Okay, for this one I did use my Stamparatus. For the main image, we're using the All the Good Things set with the koi. It's an Asian theme. I love koi. When I was in Japan and Hong Kong in my military service, koi are good luck in the Asian the countries. In Hong Kong, I was told they were just, you had to have one. I went to a lady's home that didn't have a yard. She even had a koi in her bathtub. So my sister also raises koi. Hers are huge. If I'm incorrect in that analogy, please feel free to correct me, but I believe they are. Just good luck. Okay, so I did put my koi stamp onto my Stamparatus for the reason I could line up the wording so that the wording's gonna stamp straight. And I did mark my Stamparatus here so I knew where I was going to be putting my cardstock. I also do that if I'm making multiple of one card. And that way it's all lined up and ready to go. So we're going to take our VersaMark, ink up our stamp. Oh, yes, use your embossing buddy. It's okay to get a little bit of the splatter of the different pearls because it's pretty, but I kind of want my words to be very distinct, so I don't want to get extra where I don't need it. So I'm going to ink this up really good. I would suggest that if your pad is not new, that you re-ink it. If you want a nice layer, press it down firmly. I usually let my stamp sit on the paper just a little bit because it gives your stamp or the ink or whatever you're using, VersaMark ink, time to soak into the cardstock a little bit. So we're going to take this out now. Move this aside. I didn't need the Stamparatus for this next part. I decided I wanted to have a couple extra little koi. So I'll just ink it up. And I think we're going to put one right here in the corner, just his head. And then I want a full koi up here to the corner of the words. And you can still see that where your VersaMark is, it's going to be shiny. So you'll be able to see easily. Let me move in a little here for you. Go. Do another little guy coming up from the bottom here. I can see where I had some on the edge, but we'll be able to get that off. It's so rare that I use a block anymore. I always use my Stamparatus and I don't end up with those little lines. You know where you get it on the edge of your stamp? Yeah, do it a lot. But that's okay. We're good. So what I want to do, you just get a really soft-tipped brush. I'm using a smaller one than it showed on the internet because I wanted to be able to do some detailed work here. Well, not necessarily detailed, but I want to do the words in one color, which I'm going to use the glitter gold for just the words. So what you'll do is you'll put your tip of your brush into your, tap it off just a little, and you can tap it off in the, and then just lightly rub it over the area that you want the pearls to be at. You don't have to rub really hard. It's a light touch sort of deal. I assume it could rub off your VersaMark if you rub too hard, but it didn't happen to me yet, so I just kind of spread it around in the areas where I want it. And I'm mainly doing the words here. I'm going to take just a little bit of this glitter gold and just add some random onto my koi. just to pull in some of the words color. And remove that aside. Now we're going to bring in our, which one is this? This is our super copper. So I'm just going to tap off my brush a little so I don't contaminate my container. Tap it into your lid and add some more random areas onto your koi. See, as you can tell, a little goes a really long way. And you could do the koi a solid color if you wanted to. I just thought it would look pretty with multiple colors. Now I'm going to pull in just a little bit of the, what do they call this one? Super bronze. So bring our lid in. And now go into the other areas of the fish. You can go over the whole thing because it's just whatever excess you had from tapping some on there. It's just going to blend, spread. Going to spread it around. Tap that off a little because I wanted to add a little more copper to this one. Just make sure all of your areas are covered. See where I had my stamp line there? I'll show you how to get rid of that because I think I did it on my original too. Okay, so now you have your image covered. You're simply going to take a regular Kleenex tissue and just lightly wipe away what you're not using. You don't want to rub too hard. You're just basically wiping away the excess. And to get rid of that little spot there, if you don't own an adhesive eraser, I would suggest getting one. I love this. I use it for so many things, beyond even removing adhesive in places you don't want it. So I'm just going to lightly go over that one spot. See? And it took it right off. So there's our, you can see that I'm trying to get the light to get it. There's several colors in there. So now, for the bubbles, let me close the ones we're not using here. It's another one of those products you really just don't want to sneeze around. So for the bubbles that I did here, see little bubbles, those come from the Playful background set. It's a fun little set. I really enjoy it. And we're going to be using this one here. So I know that I want just some scattered bubbles. I don't want the whole thing covered. So I'm kind of going to figure out where my bubbles are going to land. Let me move out here a little for you. And then I'm only going to put VersaMark on certain ones. And if you don't have one, this is a VersaMark pen. So it's the exact same thing as your pad, but it's a pen, and it has a feather tip edge and a fine tip edge. You could actually write out things and emboss them or do things like this. So I'm going to take my feather tip edge, and I think I want to figure out where I want some bubbles coming up from this fish, and I want some bubbles coming up through this fish. So just kind of turn your stamp until you figure out where you want it. So I know I want those two bubbles and maybe a few right there. So I just take, and just like you would do your marker to stamp technique, you do the same thing with this VersaMark pen. I don't know how much these are. I know they're cheaper than the VersaMark pad, and the craft store has them. So I'm going to do a couple bubbles here and these guys right here. Kind of hard because I can't see the ink, and I'm just going to line it up. I got a couple bubbles there. Now I think I'll add just some random bubbles. I'm just going to do these two guys here. Put a couple of bubbles coming from this fish here. I'll make sure I don't have some on the rest of it. Let's see, where else do we want? Maybe we want a couple little bubbles there. So let's go ahead and do these three right here. I really don't, but the only reason I'm not inking the entire stamp in stamping is I don't want to add more. I don't want the bubbles over the fish. And let's do two more little bubbles, right in the corner here. Okay. Now we're going to do exactly like we did before. And this one is that really, it surprised me because as you see it, it looks magenta. But they call it Duo Red. Duo, that's some really small writing, I'm just going to say. Duo Red Blue. So I'm just going to get my lid, tap it off a little bit, and then find where my bubbles were. I had some down here, didn't I? It's kind of fun. You just start rubbing and you'll see where it is. Make sure they're nice, covered. I'm going to close this. I'm going to grab a clean tissue because I think I wiped my stamp with this and I don't want to smear my image. Slightly wipe it off. And there you go. So if you wanted to add more accents, you could do the same with your VersaMark pen. So I think I'll just show you that you can overlay it again. So I'm just gonna color a little bit of area with my VersaMark pen. Take some of my bright copper here. Just go over it again. See where it added just some extra dark accents right where I had the VersaMark. So in other words, you don't have to stamp an image. You can use your VersaMark pen and add parallax to anything. So then we're going to take this. Find yourself, if you have I couldn't find my little Stampin' misters. With a mister, with just water in it, spritz it in the air, and then just wave your card through it. And what that's going to, it doesn't have to be real wet. All you're doing is setting the powder. That way it's not going to rub off. See? It's going to rub off. So that's how you set it, just with a real light mist of water. So we'll take this, and we're simply going to put it onto our mat. I'm just using multi-purpose glue. You can use your favorite adhesive. I know a lot of people are really good with tape. I'm not. I'm one of those, I can set it with glue and then I can shift it a little bit while it's wet to make sure it's on there square. Okay. And this one we're going to attach to our card base with dimensionals. And then I'll show you how I got the colored pearls. A cute technique I use a lot. You can do it on almost any bling. So we're going to take this off. I was with my dog this morning and she had something on her nose. I thought, oh no, she got hurt. No, she was sniffing around in my she cave. She had a dimensional stuck to her nose. Really? Until I get into it. So now this one, I'm kind of just going to center it in the length because it's a different size. So I pick two corners, line them up, and then lay the rest down. Now, to get these blue pearls, I'll show you a really quick technique you can use. I do it a lot. Instead of buying a bunch of different pearls and colors, I mean, I buy a lot of them, but so these are just our pearl basic jewels. And this is, for this one, we're using the light Night of Navy alcohol Stampin' blend. And you simply just color your pearl. Oops, that one took off. And the reason I use the alcohol is because it will dry and it'll stay on there. I have done it with my Stampin' Right markers, but you really have to wait till they dry or it'll just rub right off. So then we're just going to take your pick tool, add a couple of, if you don't have this take your pick tool, it's right up there with the Stamparatus in the must-haves. I didn't want to add a lot to this because I didn't want to take from the actual technique itself. But there you go. Some colored pearl koi. That's got to be even luckier, you would think. There you go. I hope you enjoyed today's technique and card. Have a great day. Happy stamping.